All right, we have Randy George here in the studio today. It's great to be in Arizona, especially in March.
Yep. Yep.
Randy lives here in Arizona as well, and we're lucky to have him here in studio. So, Randy,
Well,
thanks
thank
so
you.
much for joining.
Oh, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So, I've known Randy for 5, 7 years now,
Yeah,
something like
I'm
that.
guessing. Yeah.
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 And we're finally doing an interview, which is
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. So, one of the things we talked about was going through a playlist of music because these weird music playlists have really been um, popular. People are really resonating hearing new and interesting music. So,
Okay.
you sent over some selections for us to listen to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I picked some things from my own catalog as well as some quintessential things that I grew up with that were major impacts at the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And for people who may not be familiar with you, you want to just share a little about I know you're a big progressive rock guy, so our
Well,
fans are
my
too.
musical journey is it's been interesting. If you're into progressive rock, then you would have a much better chance of knowing who I am. I think it started in 1996 when Rick Wakeman signed my band Ajalon to his Hope Records label. And he put us in front of a large Yes audience. Many who, bought at the time it was, well, we had started with a cassette. We sent him a cassette. That's what he signed us on. They put it on CD. They changed the title of the album and gave us a nice cover. And then it got a lot of airplay in the UK, evidently, on all the major networks. And I think that sort of put us on the map with some people. And as that progression kind of continued over the next few years, I joined up with Neal Morse, doing his solo material with him and Mike Portnoy. And that was about 2003. And we did that uh, till about 2012, which was the last time we were just Neal's core solo band. We auditioned and got a keyboard player and a guitar player and became the Neal Morse Band. Now, of course, being next to Neal and Mike put me in front of a much larger audience as
Right.
well, and that's where most people would probably recognize me from. And then, of course, once the Neal Morse Band started, we started doing albums under that moniker, which is still going, and but it's more of a band writing process, more of a whole band thing, as opposed to a solo artist who's kind of written everything and then just brings in a band to sort of flesh it out. So that's how that differs, and that's probably what I'm most known for. So along the way, of course, I've done 3 albums with my band Ajalon. I've done 3 solo albums. I put out 4 compilation discs throughout the 2Ks that were other bands that were doing Christian-themed progressive rock, just to give it a framework, a name and a framework. And thankfully, Rick Wakeman and Kerry Livgren and guys like that, Neal Morse, they all got behind it and contributed as well. Phil Kagi. I did a song. I took one of Phil's old songs and revamped it, and we both reimagined it together. And I wrote some lyrics and music to add to it. And a lot of cool things happened through that. They were limited editions, but they achieved what we started out to do with them. And here we are in 2025.
And you're going on Cruise to the Edge?
Yes, I will be playing for a couple of different artists on Cruise to the Edge. As you know, every year I do the Morris Fest, and this last time, Neal did a presentation of his trio, which was Morris, DiVirgilio, and Jennings, or DiVirgilio, Morris, and Jennings. They call it DMJ. And they're sort of a vocal trio, kind of like Crosby, Stills, and Nash with a little more progressive rock influence, maybe even a little Kevin Gilbert influence at times. And so they did a presentation which required a band, and they added myself and the keyboard player from the Neal Morse Band, Bill Hubauer. And so that went over really well. That was a very fun set to play, and evidently he was able to get booked on the cruise with that. Prior to that, I had already been asked by an artist by the name of Gabriel Agudo, who's from South America, to be in his band along with Neal Morse band members Bill Hubauer and Eric Gillette. And we're playing his set on the cruise, so he'll have 2 shows, and then I'm doing 2 sets with the trio. So that's 4 shows that I'll be doing on that particular cruise, yeah.
Cool. And if you haven't checked out Randy's YouTube channel, Randy's quite a shredder. Randy can play anything on the guitar or the bass. I'm sure you play other instruments. You've got a great studio here in town, too. You've got...
Well, I actually started out on keyboards.
Yeah, keyboards.
I play a lot of keyboards, too. I tried not to be my own guitar player and keyboard player as well as bass. I kind of wanted to stick to one instrument and have band members, at least when it came to fleshing out my solo material. But for some reason, it just worked out. I just kept at it and kept doing it. And before you know it, I'm playing all the keyboards, I'm playing all the guitars. And then I just find spots where I can get people to guest on it. Mm-hmm. And that's been, I've been real fortunate that way as well.
Right on. So you've teed up the first track, which features Paul Hansen on electric bassoon, who has filmed right here. He played
that's right.
Wichita Lineman and a few other tracks. But yeah, tell us about your work with Paul.
Well, as you know, when you brought Paul here to play with Michael Manring, we showed up and you asked us to come and do some sort of a guest bit with them, and Andy West from the Dixie Dregs. So there was the 4 of us there doing stuff. That was my introduction to Paul, and I was very impressed with what he did, because he took an instrument that is not known for being, number one, a solo instrument or a virtuoso instrument outside of the classical symphony application or soundtrack music, where you might hear something like that. And he was able to do things like use a guitar processor and come up with some different sounds and delays and loops. And he was a virtuoso soloist that like nothing I'd ever heard before. So I was really, I was thinking about him and thought, I've got to get this guy on something. So,
oh, cool, yeah. Cool. And that track is on this CD, right? Mm-hmm. Beyond Words came out in 2023, and this one we're going to listen to is called...
Foam Rubber Monsters.
Foam Rubber Monsters, track 7. What a cool track.
Thanks.
Just rocking.
Yeah.
Do you have any others on this that are in your playlist?
Yeah, there's one on there called Soul Geometry.
Okay, Soul Geometry. Tell us about that while I cue it up.
Okay, well, Soul Geometry was a track that I started thinking about more modern type stuff and industrial kind of music and electronica and, some of the stuff that's been out there. And I thought, well, why not try to make music with sounds, strange sounds, and try to create a tapestry of sorts. In a way, I was going for kind of a Brand X kind of vibe. It's sort of a nod to Brand X in terms of its freeformness and its melodic approach. But I was also just trying to take advantage of using sounds and getting away from a conventional kind of, palette for the background. So, and then basically what I did was just solo fretless bass over it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you've heard Kev Hopper from the band Stump.
I can't say that I have. That's something I'll have to check out.
I just interviewed him, and he uses all sorts of sounds to make music, and he's an incredible bass player also. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to that.
Awesome.
But let's
That's great.
take a listen to this one. Soul Geometry. That's cool. That's really cool. That fretless intonation is tough. You're doing a lot of hard work in that one. Nice job.
Yeah, it's thank you. It's yeah, I'm not known for having done a lot of fretless work, so I thought it would be nice to do some.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a fretless for a long time. I use it in the Neal Morse Band occasionally, but yeah, I thought I wanted it sort of a nod to Percy Jones, that kind of thing. 'Cause, and I got to see Brand X back in 2019. One and only chance I ever had to actually see them, and they were just incredible. Everybody was there. The Neal Morse Band, even Neal was just couldn't believe he was watching Chris Clark, and his mind was blown. I mean, everybody's mind was blown.
Right.
It was a great performance.
Yeah.
And I turned down. I was walking back to the ship to catch this performance, and Tice Van Leer from Focus and Steve Hackett from Genesis were on their way into Margaritaville or somewhere like that, and because we were docked in Cozumel or whatever, and they were on. They come. We're gonna go. Play some music and drink beer and play music. Basically, at least Tice Van Leer, he was gonna drink beer, and they asked me to come along and jam with them and stuff, and I was like, oh, I'd really love to, but I'm going to see Brand X. Sorry, So, and I don't regret that, not for a second.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's
anyway.
Cool.
So I really wanted to try to do something along those lines. Their musical language was just so amazing to just see how they communicated and the vocabulary they used, and just absolutely incredible.
Well, one of the other a track that you brought is Water on the Brain by Allan Holdsworth. And I just put out something called the Allan Holdsworth Chord Competition, trying to get people to try out some of Allan's crazy stretching chords. But this is a really cool track. Tell us about Allan Holdsworth and you.
Okay, well, let's see. Allan Holdsworth. So I guess it was about 1982, and I went and saw him do one of those guitar clinics, so to speak, at a music store. And they played, he was touring road games with his band, and he had Jeff Berlin, Chad Wackerman, and I can't remember Dennis.
Yeah, I
Pepin,
don't remember. I don't know.
I think was on keyboards. Anyway, they were doing road games, and I had gotten that album, and it was just such a mind-blowing album at the time. It just blew my mind musically. Again, there's musical vocabulary in this palette that is just so complex and melodically yet just was so rich and worked so well. And so I have a lot of good memories of that album. And it was, I think, 2017 when I was on Cruise to the Edge. It was the last time Allan Holdsworth Band was on the cruise. And he had Jimmy Haslip and Virgil Donati on drums. And they did Water on the Brain. I heard that, I was on deck, they were playing, and they launched into Water on the Brain, and I was mesmerized. It's just like, I have so many great memories of that, but it was so great to watch them play it and play it live. And but yeah, I've met Allan off and on over the years, and so forth. I just, there's just never been quite anything like what Allan Holdsworth does or did in his time. He definitely pushed some boundaries, and he was a thing unlike any other thing.
True. All right, let's give it a listen. track.
Right?
Sheesh.
I mean, what do you do after that? You're just like, where do you go from there?
I know. That's what astounds me about Allan's music. It's not just him and his playing. His bands are so unbelievable.
Yeah.
The soloing from everyone is always top notch. And so many of us are mystified by it, but there's this elite group of musicians, not all the same, but he's had, I don't know, maybe 30 different guys play with him and in his band.
Yeah.
And they all get it,
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
I can imagine. That's an amazing piece of music.
All right, tell us about this Metheny track, Third Wind Live.
Well, I love that song, Third Wind, off of Still Life Talking. To me, that's just the quintessential modern jazz song. It just has everything melodically that, I thrive on. This particular performance was rather stunning. It's long, but he's insane.
Yeah,
his soloing is just unbelievable, and his band is amazing. I don't know what it was about this particular one, but I just thought it was absolutely fantastic, and he always is.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yep.
But
Totally
I thought
agree.
this one was particularly good.
All right, let's cue it up. Here we go. Wild. What a solo.
Oh, the one at the end, you should see. The whole thing is just amazing. It's about 10 minutes long. But
yeah.
He's so, it just flows so effortlessly. And melodically, it's just, again, he's just got a melodic language unlike anybody else.
Yeah.
In their time, there wasn't that much. In the here and now, a lot of guys grew up listening to this stuff, and there's all kinds of different guys that can do what these guys do now. They weren't the first to do it. They wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for these guys. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of really great players out there who have learned from guys who set the standards like these guys did.
For sure.
And the vocalist, oh my God, what a gig, right?
Yeah. Well, he's a vibe player too, it looks like.
Yeah, he does a lot.
All right, let's check out I'm Freaking Out, and then we'll close with one of the tracks from the Ajalon record. Sound good?
Okay, sure.
Cool. All right, tell us about the Dixie Dregs. What are your thoughts on them, and
again,
why this song?
I was young. High school for me. And me and my friends in high school listened to the Dixie Dregs a lot. Steve Morse was our guitar hero at that time.
Yeah.
This is one of their jam songs, but to me was one of those songs that just broke all barriers and just sort of created its own space in existence, especially in a band like the Dixie Dregs, where he was so composed, and every song was very well composed in a different style, and authentically so, but there was always an overlying, Steve Morse voice in it. This, to me, was just not so much just any style as much as just taking it and breaking all the rules and creating this tapestry of chord changes and cycling and then there's a lot of jamming. And T. Lavitz, especially with the keyboard solo. Yeah. And oh my gosh. I mean, to me, at 18, this is the kind of stuff that inspired me. Yeah.
All right, here we go. I'm Freaking Out. I forgot how creepy that album cover is.
Here it goes.
Man, Andy was such a freak on the bass, wasn't he? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
I bet at the time, I mean, when this came out, hearing someone play the bass like that just probably sounded impossible.
Yeah, you know, you listen to it and you're like, wow. I mean, is he really playing that?
Yeah.
And but yeah, and I saw them many times back then, in bars.
Yeah.
I mean, I was too young to get in, but I did. And they were amazing. They
Yeah.
were just amazing because they could do all this stuff. But it was amazing that they weren't bigger than they were. You know, at least in those days when this was the new album. And they were super nice guys, but man, yeah, what a band, what a sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really incredible. All right, let's close with what was the name of the track on this one?
Well, this one's Abstract Malady. Well, let's see, what can I tell you about this? Ajalon's third album, I think that came out in 2011, 2010, 9, something like that. And this song was an instrumental piece. Ajalon was not really known for doing instrumental pieces, and so but this album's kind of a bit storied. So anyway, we have one. And a couple of guest musicians on this. So there's some pretty insane guitar playing on this by a guy named Paul Bielatowicz. And you might know him these days as the guy playing for Carl Palmer.
Oh,
Doing
okay.
all the Keith Emerson guitar.
Is he on stick too, or is that?
No, they have a stick player. That's the bass. They're a trio. They're a
That's
three-piece.
right. That's
Paul's the guitar player, and I've worked with Paul on a number of projects with the Neal Morse Band, and I had him do some guest work on this album as well. The other guest that is on this song, contributing some additional keyboards, because I did guitar and keyboards on this as well, was a guy named Fred Schendel from a band called Glass Hammer. And Fred and my drummer Dan Lyle, who's absolutely amazing, they were good friends from way back, and they knew each other. So, and I knew Fred sort of separately from that. And then when I found out that he knew Dan and used to play with him, it was like, oh wow, you know, what a small world, because Fred was living in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But I started writing this song based on a drum part. The way it starts. Dan came up with this drum part, you know, and I thought, okay, let's start writing something to it. And so I started with these keyboards, and it just sort of perpetuated on from there. Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty intense track. A lot of notes.
Yeah, the guitar is insane.
All right, here we go. Abstract Malady. brings me back to the Vinnie Moore stuff I used to listen to on was it Shrapnel Records or Magna Carta or something?
Right, right. Well, it's a lot of two-handed tap.
Yeah.
The guy's really
Crazy.
small. He's a tiny little guy with tiny little fingers, and he just flows effortlessly in the two-handed tapping thing.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and plays Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and all Keith Emerson parts on it.
Well, that whole band was on fire.
Right. I mean,
so tell us about how people can find you and support you.
Well, I think it's randygeorgebased.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
That's where most of this stuff is available. Pretty sure that this, as well as other Ajalon albums and my first 2 solo albums, are pretty much available anywhere.
Okay.
You'll find them on Apple Music, any platform. They're worldwide. They've all been properly released. The only thing that's sort of unique to Bandcamp and YouTube is my current solo album, Beyond Words. You can get it at Bandcamp, but you can also watch the video versions up on my YouTube page, which I believe is just, again...
I'll flash the URL and put it in.
Yeah, flash the URL. It's Randy George Music or Randy George Bass.
Yep.
Can't remember exactly which one it is, but so I have everything organized in playlists. If you go to my YouTube page, it's best to look at the playlist because I put everything in categories of which, it's all my solo albums, Ajalon stuff. Although these albums you can find just by putting in, the album titles. But it's a lot of other stuff that's not necessarily official album release. And I got a lot of miscellaneous videos, some of the pandemic covers we did, a lot of different stuff. There's a whole Neal Morse Band playlist of different stuff.
Right on.
And
Fantastic.
Sweet Invention, which is a project I did with my wife, and that's up there as well. So
great. Well, good luck on the cruise.
Well, thank you.
And go check out Randy's music. Thanks a lot for watching.